That way, once the summer months arrive, you do everything you can beforehand to keep them cold. So you open them up, and if it starts to warm up a little bit outside, go and shut the cellars, and at least that way it helps prepare for the long summer months, especially if they put whale or Iñupiaq or meat, quaq in there. Once they catch them, you're putting warm meat down there to cool off. So the colder you can keep them, the better it is.
Yeah, and this last year, we were able to harvest this last year, and we put it in the cellar. We served our Iñupiat, and then in the fall time, somebody had done a checkup on the cellar, and this is the first time I ever heard that our cellar's over 100 years old, and I don't remember it ever thawing out like it did this last summer. We had the Iñupiaq and meat inside, and it was sitting on a sheet of ice, but underneath that ice, it had thawed out to where there was a bunch of water. So we took everything out. It was just starting to get wintertime, so we took everything out so we could serve it for Thanksgiving. I think we had taken it out toward the end of October. But we had caught it just in time, so nothing had spoiled inside the silo. But I don't know. That's just the first time. I don't know if it was the rain. I don't know if it was the extremely warm weather. We did have we're having a lot more rain in the last couple of summers. But hopefully this next go around, I know they're opening up the cellar now, and it's negative 27 outside right now. So hopefully it stays frozen if we are able to harvest again.
Can you talk a little bit about the process of rising in the, how long so you've served on one of the crews when you were 18 and then you came back, maybe you were on one since you were 18, but about rising in the ranks in a crew, or how it works?
Every crew is a little different than the other, but generally, I guess I can speak from my experience. I haven't gotten, to be a full-blown whaling captain, but I've been co-captain. And from my experience, I started off pretty young. I want to say at 13 or 14 is when I was able to actually go out with the crew to go at least help with some of the smaller duties, get my foot in the door, go out to the whale camp and listen, go watch, wait for whales, and go back home to school. But we'd go out there, and we were always stuck with chopping ice. That was one of the main duties, is to go fix the trail. They would create the path, and really they'd go out to go make the trail and get to the ice edge. And for me, I never got to see that portion until later, but they'd bring us out to go refine the trail and get rid of all the bumps along the way. And then we got that portion down. It takes a long time. I did that for maybe 4 or 5 years, and until we were able to go out and, then they stick us on coffee duty, go make coffee or cook breakfast, and you have to work your way up. It's not easy. And I remember one year, I don't remember what age I was, but I got a pretty special role. I was able to run the flag back to my office house, the captain's house, and that was, I felt like I had done something by then. And, as we got older, we were able to go and assist with getting the Iñupiaq out to camp. And that's a big duty. They're entrusting you to keep the skin boat safe on the trail. And that's not a small deal. We look back and, we had to work our way up. So we got good enough to be setting up camps and helping bring the boats out. And I hadn't gotten in a boat yet. So, I want to say it was close to 10 years before I was put into a role to where I was even able to go out there and paddle, go in the Iñupiaq and go learn how to be quiet in the water. And after that, they would assign us roles after we got good enough to where they thought we were sufficient in keeping quiet while we're paddling, and never, I hadn't gotten close to harpooning or anything yet around then. And few years of doing that, watching them catch whales, and then getting into the aluminum boat. It took years to do that too. So it took me a few years of hard work to be able to get into some of the boats. And I felt really good once they had let me go into the aluminum boat. Once they had struck a whale, then we finally caught the whale that we were going after. And I got to see the whole process of the whale being struck and caught by my uncles and my op. And it's just a special moment, even though I wasn't, the harpooner or anything like that. So it takes years. The process is, for me, at least, it was a long time. Let's see, what year was it? It must have been 2008 or 9. I think I was 24 or 25 when I was asked to become a co-captain of my Uncle Lewis's crew. Once I had joined Uncle Lewis's crew, LBC, then I was able to, strike my own whale. And that was a big moment for me.
I know for myself, I think me and Brower really started going whaling around the same time when we were getting to the age where we could go out there by ourselves and be helpful to the guys on the ice. And I think Brower actually, he got more time out there than I did. He really put the time in, worked for what he was going for. And you really don't get to, from what I remember, you really don't get fully get to do everything until you really become an adult. Before you turn 18, depending on the person, you're really learning everything. You're following whatever your elders or your uncles or whoever you're whaling with. You're really following what they're doing. You're learning by acting it. And it takes years to do that, to know what to do, to know how to react, and to know how to really act as a team, really, because all the crews, they have set rules. They have set rules that a lot of the rules aren't written down. You just learn as you go, and these rules are just carried forward. So Brower when I left when I was 18, Brower was 17, and from 17 to 24, that's 7 years he was here, and I wasn't here. So he really worked his way up to be able to do all the things that he said. So when I came back when I was 28, I was really going back into the whaling world as 18, still learning. So Brower was a co-captain, and I was learning from him and learning from my uncles. And, I was pretty nervous at first. I didn't know how I was going to be accepted back. But, when I just jumped in there, and it's not something that you go out and you want to, or anything that you demand. It's not something that you go out there and say, I want a whale. I want to go out to this. I want to do that. You don't approach a captain ever like that. You approach them as them noticing when you're ready. If you're ready, they'll ask you. So I just kind of, when I came back, I was learning. Brower already knew how to rebuild the bombs. He knew how to put everything together. He knew exactly how to. I remember the first year when I came back. Within the first year and a half, we'd gotten a whale, and it was just me, Brower, Chris, and Michael Burnell. So we were all pretty young. And we were able to get the whale, and Lewis was in town, and we brought it to town, and we were able to harvest it. But I remember being a part of that, but really it was their experience that brought that whale, and I was just there helping at that point. But here I am. I'm 7-8 years down the road, and I'm becoming more involved with my captains. They're encouraging me to become more involved. I think they know that we as younger adults, we need to learn this stuff to pass it on to not let this really important tradition, and it's really essential for our community, and they want to pass on what they know too. So we're always learning. I'm 36, he's 35. We're always learning from our captains, from everybody in the community. When people strike and you go to a different whale that's been landed, it's always a good time to go and bond, go and help out cutting up the whale. I think that's probably one of my most favorite parts, is just when somebody strikes and you go and help them cut that whale up for however long it takes. Sometimes it takes 2 or 3 days to cut up a whale if it's a big one. So there's a lot of pride in making sure that it's taken care of. Yeah, it's definitely something. As far as captains are concerned, they're really revered in the community. That's a captain. You know how much they put out every year. You know how much that they dedicate themselves, their family, their time, their money, their everything every year. It's a lot for them to take on and to provide for free all that food to the community. You know, it's expensive. It's 5 or 6 weeks minimum just to hunt. It's so much work, and it's almost like a conundrum for me, because I have, in my position, I have a lot of not a lot, but I have a few whaling captains that work for me, and I don't even want to say that they work for me, because I don't like to say that for a whaling captain there, and I don't, it's a mutual respect thing that they have their job to do when they're at work. And then when we get onto the ice, it's completely reversed. I show them as much respect as I can when I'm out on the ice, and they know that. And I think that they like seeing that. I think they respect that. So it's very, it's kind of difficult, but it's something that you just learn to day by day. And I know exactly who the whaling captains are. I think I know them well enough to know that how they would like to be treated, and I try to show them as much respect as possible anytime I see them. So.
Can you guys speak a little bit about like the idea of safety and safety out on the ice and the dangers involved with that?
Yeah, that's one of the first things, we some of the safety portions of it before we even got out in the boats, as we were sitting there, they would lecture us and talk safety on ice and learning how to read conditions. One of the first things they ever showed us, though, was something that would no doubt save somebody's life. So when we got out there, they would bring us to areas where there was cracks, fractures in the ice from tides or wind or another piece of ice impacting. So they would bring us to a crack that they know moved at some point, and they would fill it in with snow and pack it down to where there's no imperfections on it whatsoever. If there were multiple cracks, then we would do that at each crack, and every time we passed those cracks on the way back to town or out to camp, or if we were going to go get the ice. So every time we would go collect water or anything like that, we would have to stop, and they had told us, to keep an eye on these locations to where they have filled it in, and if it looks like there's any crack or any difference from what we had just filled in, then we would have to report that directly to the captain or whoever was out there in charge at the camp. They would also place a compass on a piece of ice and set it to, I believe it was just 0. And if it had moved 1 degree, in any direction, then we needed to monitor that. And they would leave it there and say, don't move it. So that would be an indication that the ice is moving. So that's another portion of the safety of it. So there were multiple things that we had to do, had to learn growing up, on top of watching for bears while everybody was sound asleep. Everybody needs to rest out there, so they would leave the young bucks out there to, do night shift. And while it was dark out, they would get some rest so they can keep hunting, and they would leave the young guys out there to watch for bears. That's about when we had the most fun, though, is we would have midnight and a bunch of us would go out and wrestle to stay warm or something, and it was definitely a fun time out there.
Yeah, we were a big crew back then. We were really big with ABC crew, so many people out there all the time. And it seemed like everybody was whaling, and when you catch a whale, there was a lot of people out there. I think safety is really important for us, because if you're not safe, you're not coming home. It's, you're always checking things, and I feel like it's even more so in recent years because of the ice conditions. When we were younger, when we were first learning how to go whaling with our appa, you saw a lot of blue ice.